Prime Minister Anthony Albanese is directly lobbying members of Congress to continue supporting the AUKUS nuclear submarine deal. He says the pact is essential in strengthening Australia's defence capabilities and that it is a good agreement, not only for Australia, but for the US and UK. It follows criticism in America from two US senators who warned President Joe Biden the AUKUS deal could be a zero-sum game for the allocation of scarce, highly advanced US nuclear boats. Mr Albanese says he's confident Joe Biden will stick to the AUKUS agreement despite domestic political pressure. And joining me now to discuss more on this is US political analyst Aidan Smith. Aidan, thanks for your time. What's brought about this criticism in America?
Hi, so like always, it's so great to be back on the program. And regarding this news, I think it's really helpful to understand that we basically saw on the Senate Armed Services Committee two senior senators, Mr. Reid of Rhode Island, a Democrat who chairs the committee, as well as the now retired Mr. Imhoff, who retired as senator earlier this year. We saw some kind of collective disapproval to the idea of supplying, I believe, refitted Virginia and Los Angeles class nuclear submarines to the Australian military. For me, I think that this is more an expression of disapproval from two office holders who, while senior, are not really calling the shots, so to speak, on this. I think in the end, the Senate, especially considering it's in the president's party's hands, will end up supporting the initiative.
And Anthony Albanese says that he's pretty confident that the US would stick with the agreement. Do you think the US will see it through?
From my own prognosis, when I'm looking at a lot of analysts who work really in the defense field or just kind of related fields of looking at what foreign policy, what's really going on underneath the surface, looking at what stakeholders are indicating as opposed to, what high-level politicians are saying when it comes to public-facing letters. I think that most people do think that when it comes down to it, the Senate, the House of Representatives, even under Republican control, will understand how vital Australia is to America's national security interests, how vital it is to the national security interests of the broader AUKUS alliance. And I personally do believe that this deal will go through, and I think Albanese will be successful on this front in terms of lobbying Congress.
Do you think the concerns raised by the US are legitimate and significant to the agreement?
I think that from my own vantage point, I unfortunately can't call myself an expert on logistics of manufacturing nuclear submarines. What I do believe is that the U.S. military, it still remains far and away the largest in the entire world. I think that even with a divided Congress, we'll see that the U.S. military will be able to maintain and expand its own defense capabilities. And I think that when it comes down to it, policymakers, regulators, leaders within the Pentagon, both civilian and military, will understand that the U.S. has more than enough capacity to expand its own production capacity while also supplying vital allies with the tools it needs to retain its security.
And do we know if the counterparts in the United Kingdom are raising the same concerns?
So from what I see, it looks like the alliance, in general, the most public, I wouldn't really even call it backlash per se, because this is kind of what we'd consider elite politicking. You see a lot more high-level politicians commenting on it than really general pundits or even just a common Congress member. It does look like most of the criticism of the deal has come from these two senators and their allies, and obviously they hold a lot of institutional sway. But from what I see, it looks like London and policymakers across the globe otherwise are not objecting to the deal with regard to other party countries within the AUKUS deal.
All right, it's an issue we'll be keeping a close eye on. Aidan, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you so much.